All righty. Welcome to all of those who have joined our May meeting. Got a lot in store for you today. Thank you guys for your continued support. Um, it's always great when we get together and can share some powerful content that help us in our everyday lives, professional as well as personal. So just want to kick this meeting off with a great big welcome. Uh, you know, again, can't say enough about the dedication of our members, just continuing to support our efforts to serve you. Um, let's see, can we move to the next slide or two slides rather? So, uh, our agenda for the day. We got an awesome speaker, teacher who's going to show us some nice things. But again, I always want to share this slide with the group. These are the officers and committee chairs. If any of our members, anyone, don't be afraid, don't be shy. If anyone wants to assist any of these areas, please reach out to the appropriate committee chair. I am certain that they will welcome the help. So definitely, we appreciate all of our members that want to be involved. Here's the opportunity. There is our group, great team. We work together, but we welcome the help whenever it's offered. Next slide.
Yeah, I'll
So,
jump in on this one.
okay. Good.
So yeah, just a real quick overview. For those of you that joined us during October and November, you may have already seen this, but last year we launched this North Texas AHRMM Resource Library, which, as the description below the picture says, aims to help our members find the resources they need to advance their skill sets and careers. This is a collection of some great resources, not only for CMRP certifications, but also some really great tutorials as well. In order to access this, you can go to our northtexasarm.org website, and there's a little red button here. It says New Resource Library. And then it takes you to this page where you can type in the search filter box, and it will filter your results. So if you wanted to put in a keyword here for CMRP, then it would filter the list down to just those resources there. Same thing for if you wanted to learn more about Excel or Power BI or some other offering that we have here. It will filter that list. If there's a website, it'll show up here, and you can click those links. If there's a YouTube channel associated as well, you can click that. And then if you have a suggestion for a resource, there's a link here that launches your email. So if you want to submit something, it'll go to this email address here at the bottom, northtexasarm@gmail.com. Just let us know if there's something you'd like us to add. Back to you, Tim.
All right. So I am going to introduce a dynamic speaker.
Thank you.
Take it away, Taylor. Thank you. Awesome job on creating that resource link. Again, we want to do things that set us apart from the other chapters, and I think that was a major improvement. Definitely appreciate your work on that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so I am Taylor Van Allen. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the Technology Committee Chair here at North Texas AHRMM. Today's training is Excel Power User Training. Obviously, I'm very passionate about Excel, so this is a wonderful subject for me, and we'll go ahead and just launch right into this. So today we are going to learn a few power user features. This is geared more towards the front end of the spreadsheet software itself. There are a few back end things that we touched on during October and November trainings, namely like Power Query, and then there's some automation features in VBA. We're not going to talk about those today. This one is going to be more just for using or editing ad hoc reports. And when somebody gives you a spreadsheet, trying to make some sense of it, and saving a lot of time as well. So here's our learning objectives for the day. We're going to talk about flash fill and how that can save you a lot of time, especially when you don't know or can't remember the correct formulas that you're trying to use. This one is a big help for me, and I'm hoping that if you don't already know about flash fill, you'll see how useful it is. We're also going to talk about AutoSum features, so you can calculate a bunch of uh, averages and sums and things like that across a large collection of numbers. We're also going to talk about named ranges. This is super helpful when you're trying to make your formulas easier to read and also write. And then we touched on VLOOKUP in one of our previous sessions, but I got a request to talk about XLOOKUP. So we're going to talk about that today too. And then we'll also talk about our the data validation features to enforce data integrity, basically to keep bad data out of your spreadsheets. There's a lot of cleanup that happens when you have bad data, so trying to keep that out as much as possible. There's also some conditional formatting rules that we can apply to highlight specific things, and then using some other tools for the format painter so that you can easily edit a bunch of formatting in your spreadsheets. And then also visuals, inserting shapes, icons, text boxes, and pictures so that you can draw some attention and emphasize important items in your spreadsheets. So first item, flash fill. There is a reason I put this at the top. If you learn nothing else from today's training, this is the thing that I want you to know. It is super powerful. It allows you to basically fill in a pattern of some data, and then Excel will try to figure out what you want. So just real quickly, looking at an example of this, I pulled a list of names from the Parks and Recreation Wikipedia page, uh, and it gave me this list back. So what I want to do is pull only the names out to demonstrate how this would normally work. Using the flash fill, this is very easy. Using a bunch of formulas that you may or may not know, it's a little bit more difficult. So I'll go through the difficult way first, and then I'll show you the easy way and why it is so much better to use this. So basically what I want to do here to start off is I want to take out the numbers on the left-hand side, and I only want to keep the full name here. So typically what I would do is I would use this formula to take out everything to the right of those numbers. I would select this, and then I would use the length uh, function so that I could find this. And I want to take everything but the left 3 characters. So I can do -3, and I would get the name here. If you don't happen to know the right or length functions, uh, you may kind of struggle with this. This is a pretty short list, so you may just say, oh, I'm just going to type these. But if you have a list of hundreds or thousands of items, it helps to know some formulas. The problem with this is when I try to drag this down, it works for the first 9. And then I have numbers still in these because I only wanted to omit the first 3 characters. So unfortunately, this method doesn't necessarily work. I'd have to go back and try to put in some other complicated formula when there's a much, much easier way to do this. So instead of doing that, what I can do instead is say, all right, I just want to type in the value that I know I want. I hit enter, and then there's a shortcut that I can use here at the top, Control E. So I'm going to type that, and Excel automatically figures out exactly what I want. I want just the name. I don't want the numbers on the left-hand side, and it just figures it out for me. I can do the same thing with the first name, hit Control E, and it figures out I only want that. Same thing with the last name. I can type in an email address here. And then hit Control E. And pulling all of this information out has just become a much, much faster task. Normally,
Taylor,
yes.
sorry to interrupt. This
No,
is Elena. I have a quick question.
yeah, go
So
for it.
when you did it the first time, is it always going to pull from the immediate left column from where you
Great,
are?
great question. So it will try to determine any surrounding data. So because it was on the left, yes, it's going to look to the left. If everything was on the right-hand side, it would also look over to the right. But basically, it's going to, what it does is it looks all around and says, is there any data that's near me that has something kind of like what they just entered? And then it will make a guess. And you're actually setting me up for a wonderful segue into this scenario where if I hit a typo, then it would show a pattern that it's going to try to figure out. So on this example, if I had accidentally done a typo and hit the W instead of the E, they're right next to each other on the keyboard, and then tried to apply the flash fill, you can see that, oh, because I misspelled this, it's trying to pick up a pattern, and it puts a W on the end of everybody's name and says, okay, I got the first name, I got dot, and then 4 characters into the last name, and then you hit a W. So I guess that's what we're doing here. So it's going to look around at anything and try to determine what is the pattern here. So in order to fix that, I would just go back into this cell, hit Control E, and then it corrects itself. The second example for this is getting the last letter of the last name. So I'm going to type in an E here for the last letter of Leslie Nope's last name, Nope. And then hit Control E again, and it's going to try to guess what I'm going for here. So in this example, I get a bunch of results that I don't necessarily understand. I'm thinking, what's going on here? What pattern does it think that I'm trying to pick up? So if I look through this, I see, okay, I got the E here. I was expecting an S here for Ann Perkins, and then it just kind of goes off the rails. I can tell from looking at this pattern that it actually is taking the second letter of the first name instead, and it's trying to guess that up until these last 3 here because it's got a difference in the number of characters. But the way I can correct this is if I get a result that I don't necessarily recognize, I can just go down one row, correct it, and type in an S instead and hit enter. And then it tries to figure out, okay, rather than just one cell of data, I now have 2. I think this is the pattern you're going for. So the more data that you give it, the more examples that you give it, the more it will kind of dial in and figure out what it is that you're trying trying to go for. So even with just 2 examples now, the pattern has picked up exactly what I'm going for, which is the last letter. I got a Z here, D, N, E, R, and so on. Any other questions? I'll pause there. Nope. All right. We'll keep going. If you do have a question, feel free to come off mute at any point. So the second example here is for something that is less sample data and more real life data. We've got some lot numbers here. So in this example, I know that the first 2 numbers, I know the pattern of this. The first 2 numbers are going to be the manufacturer year. The next 2 are going to be manufacturer month. The next 2, the day, a single digit for facility number, and then a 3-digit batch number here. So just because I, happen to know that pattern, I can apply the same thing with this flash fill and be able to extract all this data out just by manually typing in one example and then using my handy dandy shortcut of Control E. I can now extract all of this without using a single formula. I hope you're applauding in the background on mute. This has saved me so much time learning how to do this. There are a few other ways to do this as well. Yes, Elena.
I was trying to clap.
Oh,
Not raise my hand.
I saw a raised hand and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
I've got
sorry.
questions. Okay. Well, you know what? I'll take that as a one-hand clap. So in order to do the flash fill, the quickest way is to do the shortcut Control E. There's a few other ways as well. You can go to the Home tab up here at the top and then go over to this editing section here on the right. So if I just hit Control Z there for this last example and go to this fill section and click this little drop down. Right here on the bottom of that list is flash fill. You can do it from there as well. So any questions on flash fill or how that works? Hopefully you can see some examples that you'd be able to use this on. This is one of the things that I use the most. It is supremely helpful. All right, I will move on to AutoSum. So AutoSum is kind of similar to flash fill. It allows you to use a sum function. So normally when I would add something up, like a column of data here, I could either very manually say equals this, plus this, plus this, which I would not recommend doing that. It's very tedious. Alternatively, you could do a sum function and then just click and drag, and you'd get your sum right there. But there is a much faster way to do this. You can highlight either the entire thing, which we'll see here in a second, or I can just come here to this cell underneath this column. And I have a couple of ways to do this. Again, there's a keyboard shortcut, which is going to be Alt equals, and it fills in the sum function for me rather than me having to type it all out. And it takes a guess as to what I'm trying to add up. And I can repeat that process a bunch of times. And then just so you can see, it works going horizontally as well, hitting Alt equals. It's going to guess, oh, there's some numbers over here to the left. Is that what you're going for? And then I can just keep going that way. Alternatively, and this is my favorite part of it, I can highlight this entire range. And then I can hit Alt equals, or if I want to use the second option, Again, in the Home tab, all the way over here to the right, there is this AutoSum button, and I can just click that instead. And it figures out that I want to add up all of the rows as a row total, and then for the columns as a column total, and then this one following the pattern as a row total here for the grand total. So if you've ever had to go in and sum up a bunch of numbers, or you also have the option to average or count or find the max value or the min value, and we'll look through a few of those here. We can do the same thing here. For these ones, Alt equals, that shortcut key, is only going to do a sum. If you want to do one of the other ones, again, you'll come back up here to this AutoSum dropdown, and you can choose average, count, max, or min. So just so you can see, here's the average, and it populates the average here. Or I can choose to count. I've got 12 months of data here, and then 4 columns across. I can find the max value in each one of these columns or rows, and I can find the minimum value as well. So I'll pause there. Any questions, comments? All right, I'll keep it moving. All right, so and just real quickly again, Alt equals is the shortcut key for that. Moving on to named ranges. We talked about Excel tables and Excel ranges in one of the previous Excel sessions. Named ranges work in a very similar way. When you create an Excel table from a range, it will automatically give it a reference or a name of table 1. Super imaginative, I know. And you can change that name, but this is without using an Excel table. If you're just trying to highlight a range, for example, and the way that you can apply a name, actually, rather, let's take a look at some of these examples. So normally in a spreadsheet, you'll see some stuff in a formula like a cell reference like J16, or a range like A2 through AG750, or if it's on another sheet, maybe sheet 1 and then a specific cell number, or a sheet named W and then space and H, and then a range like that. These are not very intuitive, as you can probably tell. Anytime that you look at a formula and you see something like that, you have to go chase down what that actually means. It's quite tedious and frankly, just takes a lot of time out of your day trying to figure all that stuff out. So enter named ranges. Instead of getting the cell reference or the range reference here, I can apply a name to it that I can look at, understand, and be able to navigate to through the entire, no matter where I am in this workbook, I can go find this and then immediately navigate to it. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. There's a few ways to look at named ranges if there are some in the spreadsheet already. The first way is through this name box over here. If I'm clicked into a cell, in this case, I'm in cell N21, you'll see the cell address here. But if I click this little drop down, I can see any of the named ranges that I have previously added to this file. And if I add a new one, I can either do that by selecting the cell that I want to add a named range to, and this one I'm going to name this cell tax rate. I can come up here to the cell reference J18 and then just type in tax rate. One quick note here, just like an Excel table, you cannot use spaces. If you wanted to, you could use an underscore instead of a space. and then it can't start with a number. So if you're going to do a number, you'll have to do an underscore and then some numbers. Same rules as an Excel table. So I'm going to name this one tax rate, and in order to lock that in, I'm going to press the Enter key, and now I can see it in my list, tax rate. If I'm clicked anywhere else in the workbook, in this sheet or any other sheet, I can come up here to this name box, select tax rate, and it's going to snap me right to that cell. So going back to one of the other pages here, coming down to select this tax rate, it's going to go back to the sheet that it's on and select the cell. So if you have an Excel workbook that has a lot of pages or tabs, and you don't really remember where something is, this is a really easy way to be able to get to that. And with a name that you will likely remember more so than J18, unless you just have a very complex mind. And if you do, I applaud you. So I've added a few named ranges here. This entire range, this range here, I've named order line totals. This one I've named order subtotal, and you'll see when I highlight these things, you'll see the named range up here in that name box. This one is order tax total, and this one is order total. So, oh, and then one other quick note, if you need to edit one of these, the way you can do that is in the Formulas tab. Come up here, and in the Defined Names section, there's the Name Manager. And if you click that, it'll show you all the ones that that showed up in this drop down here. If I needed to edit this one, for example, to say, I don't know, applied tax rate, you can click OK and close that. And now I have applied tax rate instead. And same functionality, I can select it and it'll come through here. So I'm going to go back and re-edit that one to just say tax rate and close that. So now when I want to do a calculation from this subtotal and applying the tax rate on here in order to get the order tax total, I'm just going to enter in my formula and say equals. And when I select this subtotal box, because I've named it something, order subtotal, I can read that out rather than the H28 reference that it is, and say I want to multiply that by, and I can either select it here or I can start typing out tax rate, and it will start popping up here, anything with the word tax. If I keep typing further into that, I can hit the Shift key and finish that out. And some color-coded cell references you'll see, or some highlighting rather. The order subtotal here in blue, tax rate here in that red color, and hit enter. And you can see the formula kind of out here to the side. So much easier to read your formulas, much easier to write your formulas as well in these named ranges. So any questions about named ranges? Hopefully this will also help you kind of decipher through some of those more complicated formulas. I know this has been a source of a lot of frustration for a lot of people, so hopefully this cuts down on that as well. No questions? Okay. I'm going to move on to XLOOKUP. So firstly, a quick note on XLOOKUP. Currently only available for Microsoft 365 subscriptions. If your organization has recently upgraded to Microsoft 365, XLOOKUP is available for you. If not, if you're working from Excel 2016 or back, and possibly Excel 2019, I'm not sure, to be honest, then you'll still work with VLOOKUP or index match for joining your data together. If you need a refresher on VLOOKUP, I believe the October training had that one. You can find that through our YouTube channel. But I am also going to look at an example of VLOOKUP here versus XLOOKUP. Using a named range here, oops, here, I have named this range new pricing. The example I'm going to work with is I have some contract pricing here for some of these items, showing my current price for these, and then looking up in this this named range for new pricing. I'm going to bring back the new price, find the difference between the pricing, and then the dollar amount there, and then the percentage difference as well. Man, this one's alarming, 70% difference. So using a VLOOKUP, the syntax of that is that I'm going to use a lookup value, and then the next portion of the formula is I'm going to define the entire table array that I'm going to look up, find what index of or what number column I want to return, and then what kind of match that I want. So looking into that, if I click into this this formula again, lovely highlighting here. I'm looking up this value here, this item number in my existing pricing, and then looking for that in this entire array that I have named new pricing. Otherwise, it would have some range reference of C18 through F23. And based on that, I want to return the first, second, third, fourth column to get my new pricing. And I purposely added this sample item here on the bottom. I don't have item number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in my new pricing table, so I'm going to get an NA result, meaning this one was not found in this new pricing list. Alternatively to VLOOKUP, which I know a lot of people struggle with, still the main request that I get is, how do I do a VLOOKUP and why does my VLOOKUP not work? So one of the advantages of XLOOKUP is that you can look either left or right rather than having to have your lookup value as the leftmost column in your table. And clicking into this formula in the formula bar, rather than having to highlight the whole thing, I can just select, here's my lookup range, and then bring me back the corresponding values in this other column. So somewhat similar, but also has an optional argument here for what if I don't find this thing? Instead of getting an NA value, I can define something like item not found, and copying that down. You can see this now says item not found instead of NA. So one advantage there, but also if I move this price column over a little bit, keep an eye on the new price column here versus in XLOOKUP versus the new price column in a VLOOKUP. And what happens? When I move this out of the way, I no longer have a fourth column. My formula breaks. I don't have any results at all. But in the XLOOKUP, I still have it. The reason for that is because instead of doing the entire array here, this range, I selected an individual column, and when I move that column around, the reference stays with it, which is fantastic, especially as you edit your data. This is a huge help and allows you to not have broken formulas, which is very, very helpful. So any questions about VLOOKUP versus XLOOKUP? If not, I'll keep going. All right. Next is data validation. This is the best way to keep bad data out of your spreadsheets. This is as well-meaning as a lot of people are, as everybody is, myself included. Sometimes you'll mistype something, or you'll put a value in that doesn't have the same data type as something that you're looking for. Data validation is the way to keep bad data out of your spreadsheets. Mostly because when you use data validation, you can enforce some rules and it'll throw an error message if you don't input the right kind of data. So just so you can see where I am, if you come up to the data tab here on the top, and then over in the data tools section over here on the right here in the middle, there's something called data validation. So when I click this, it's the first option here, data validation. When I click that, I've already set up some rules here in these 4 boxes. For this specific collection of cells here that I've merged together, normally when you start out, you'll have something that says any value, and you can type whatever you want into it. For this one, I just want to have a whole number between the minimum of 3 and the maximum of 10. I can also apply an input message, which you see populating here. Anytime that I click into the cell, it gives you a prompt that says, hey, you need a whole number here, and gives you instructions that says input a number between 3 and 10. And then if you don't do that, you get an error alert. It says invalid input. The value you input is not a number between 3 and 10. So if you got some people going rogue on something here, if I typed in a 1, here's the error message that comes up that we've already defined. The value you input is not a number between 3 and 10. Okay, let me try that again. Let's go for 15. Nope, that doesn't work either. All right, let's try 3. Oh, okay, great. It's a number between 3 and 10. Perfect. What if somebody wants to put in an alphanumeric character or an alpha character? This is not a number between 3 and 10. It does not allow you to enter anything other than what you've specified in your data validations, or an empty cell. It'll also take that. Same thing for a date. If I just type in an A here, because I've set something up here, it doesn't match what I've defined. Take a look at that again, coming up to the data validation dropdown and seeing that. Here's the settings. I chose from this list, I want a date value between January 1st, 2000 and December 31st of this year, 2022. So if I try to type something else in there, January 1st, 1900, going to come back and tell me, sorry, you can't do that. But if I choose today's date, for instance, it's a valid date type and or data type of date, and it's within the range that I specified. So it takes that input. Also, you have the option of creating a list that you can type the values in. So choose from these typed values in a list. Looking at the data validation on that one, chose list, and then just typed some stuff in, separated by commas, by the way. And I'll add a few more. And here are a few more, just so you can see that now, and here are a few more. So I can manually type them in if I don't want somebody to be able to edit them. And then lastly, from same thing here, a list, but I defined a named range here and referenced it. It's the data validation list range. So just so you can see this named range that I've added using the same process as before, coming up to the name box, typing this name out, pressing enter. So choose from this range, choose from this range. So if I have this somewhere in some other tab or in a hidden sheet or something like that, if that's how you want to manage them, you can just have a longer list, choose from this range of named range values. This is not going to update because this is still my range. I'd have to update my named range. Anybody remember how I edit a named range? I'll take that as a yes, we absolutely do, but why don't you show us anyway for those that aren't paying attention? Excellent suggestion. I will go ahead and do that. So in my name manager, this is my data validation list. I can edit this right now. It's set to L17 through 20. I have 4 more rows in here. So now I can close this and there we go. That's how you edit data validation list. You just update the named range to include the new values. And then there they are. Any questions about data validation? I have a feeling people are, some people are rubbing their hands together maniacally going, oh, this is going to be great. I can lock out some people from putting in some bad data in my spreadsheets. All right, moving on. Conditional formatting. This one I probably used more than maybe anything else before the flash fill. This one, you'll use some conditional formatting. I feel like this one's one that a lot of people have used before. If you're doing it manually, you're probably highlighting some stuff and saying, okay, let me click through each of these and apply the paint bucket or something like that. There's a much easier way to go about doing this, which is to apply conditional formatting. And the way you get to that is Home tab, right here in the styles, this really colorful styles section, and then choose conditional formatting here. I've got this entire range of numbers highlighted. So I can say, all right, I want to highlight some cells and the title above this over here is greater than a number, and I'm just going to choose greater than 80. It is the, when you're on the highlight cells rules, it's the very first option. So I want a number greater than something specific. I believe by default, it's trying to figure out which number I want. And I think the median or the mean, the average, whatever, it's picking up, which is 48, I guess, for these numbers here. I can overwrite that by just typing 80. And then as you saw, it updates here. So all the numbers that are greater than 80, it'll default for light red fill with dark red text. You can choose any of these other ones, yellow, green. If you just want the fill, but you still want the automatic text color, you can just do the fill. Or if you just want to change the text color instead, this is really hard to see, but those just turned a dark red. you can just do a red border. That one I'm not really a fan of. Or you can do a custom format. So you can do some stuff like bold, italic, and we'll choose a yellow fill here. I can click OK, and then the numbers I have that are greater than 80, I can see this pretty easily. So this applies to the entire range here. If I added one and changed this 48 to 90, for example, now it's going to, since it's applied to this entire range, based on these values, it will apply the formatting based on the data as it's being changed. We'll do a less than number here and do less than 40. And we'll do that one with, let's see, just some bold text, and let's do this with blue color. So there's all my numbers that are less than 40. If I change this 94 to a 20, obviously this is going to update as well. You can also do some between two numbers. So I'm going to choose between 40 and 80. Again, this is just kind of going down the list here. I choose between 40 and 80. And all those, I'm going to do the yellow with the dark yellow text. Just so you know, you can do this in a hierarchy as well, which is great. So I can apply conditional formatting for greater than 80 and do my custom bold italic there. Click OK. With the same range applied, do my less than 40 and do the custom fill there. And then for my between two numbers, between 40 and 80, which is just going to pick up all the rest of them. Do my yellow fill there. Actually, I'm going to do a green one so you can see a little bit more contrast there. So based on any of those values, I can apply them in a hierarchy. If I wanted to change any of that, by the way, and say, you know what, I don't like that green. I'm going to change it to like a bright orange or something. Come back to the conditional formatting, and then I can either clear all of the rules that I applied from just the selection. I could also do it from the entire sheet if I wanted to. Or I can click Manage Rules and say, you know, I want to do instead of actually, let's add a new rule for if it equals 0. See, cell value equal to 0. I'll do fill there so you can see that. I'll apply that. So now if it's equal to 0, I have this value here. It is in a hierarchy. So if I wanted to move this down, for example, all the way to the bottom and hit apply, because it's looking at the top, it's going to say, all right, let me color the ones that are between 40 and 80 in this green, less than 40 in this blue, which does include this 0, greater than 80 in this yellow, and then if it equals 0, red, but it's already been captured in this less than 40, which is why it's showing up as blue. So in order to get that, you would highlight the cell rule and then coming up here to move this up in the hierarchy, hit that, and then, oh, okay, if it equals 0, then do red, and then go through all the rest of these. Ooh, we're getting close to time here. So let's do one for text that contains very quickly. This one's super helpful if you have a search value, by the way. So if I wanted to just highlight all the ones that have the word item in it, with this light red fill and dark red text. You can see that they're all highlighted. It contains the word item. Instead of doing that, if I wanted to use this search value, I could either manually type that in, or I could choose this search cell. I can click this instead, hit OK. And now if I change this to one of the other item numbers, 1992006, it's going to highlight here instead. So I could do this similarly for an entire spreadsheet. So if I'm looking for something specific or a specific word or a specific value, I could apply it to an entire spreadsheet. And then it would just highlight the ones that has the search value that I'm looking for. There's also an option for duplicate values. If I wanted to find the duplicates here, I've got a couple in here. So, okay, I want to get rid of my duplicates. I can either manually delete them, and then it will go away, or I also have the option, if I go to the data tab here, next to the data validation, there's an option to remove duplicates. All right, there we go. Real quickly, you have the option to do conditional formatting with data bars. This is great when you want to see some comparative values. Choose the green there. We can do color scales as well. These are pretty fun to play with. So I can see either from the scale going from white to green, the smallest values will have the dark green, or if I go from green to white, the largest values will have the darkest saturation of green. And then icon sets. This one's really nice when you're trying to compare values on like a 3-point scale. Typically I choose arrows or something like that so you can see a difference either going up or down. And then moving on to, actually, let me pause real quickly. Any questions on any of that stuff? Data validation, conditional formatting, anything like that? All right. Format Painter. This one is pretty great. I admittedly did not know that you could use the double click, and was using the single click. The Format Painter up here, Home tab, in the clipboard section, you have a Format Painter here. If I click that, it's going to highlight these cells with the dancing ants, and then I can click and drag and apply the same format, which is great. Admittedly, I was doing this for every single instance of trying to apply back and forth for anytime that I wanted to apply the same formatting in a file. Until I found out you can double click this button, and then it will continue on with applying the formatting until you come back up here and click it again. So I wanted to include that. That was a big revelation for me. And then lastly, some visuals too, to draw some attention when you want to emphasize key details or specific sections of a report or spreadsheet. You have the option to insert some icons or stock photos, or if you have something saved on your computer, you can upload a photo for that as well. Inserting some shapes and text boxes. All of these headers that we've had so far, this is just a shape of a rounded rectangle and then a text box over the top. Obviously, this arrow may be drawing your attention as well. It's bright red, it's huge, and then it's got a glow around it. So even though I was pointing to some other stuff, some of you may have just drawn your attention over here. That's exactly the intended effect. Also, this note section here. It's an icon, a text box on top of a rounded rectangle as well. And we'll go into the Insert tab up here at the top. You can insert pictures. I chose something for a hospital. I'm just going to choose this one here. You can insert this and resize. If you wanted to add some extra stuff, so you don't just have a bunch of text on a page. All of these, by the way, are icons. Same place, Insert tab. And instead of pictures of shapes, there's this duck and a leaf representing icons. You can choose anything you like here. And I'll choose a couple of these. So you can add some icons. So this one I used as kind of an announcement thing here. You can change colors. And then just kind of put them next to specific sections. So like the stock photos here, icons, shapes, and a text box. You can see that there are 4 separate sections. Shapes, you can enter any shape that you like. I typically will go with a rounded rectangle. This arrow is also a shape. And then we drew in an arrow here. I wanted to point to this specific section. And then in order to do a text box, you insert, and instead of this section over here, it's all the way over here in the text section. You can choose text box and say, this is some sample text about this report. And then you can do some extra formatting here to draw some attention to it. There you go. All right. That concludes the power user training that we've got. We've reached the end of the material. Sorry, it's a little rush there at the end, but yeah, any questions that you guys have, or hey, I'm trying to figure out how to do this specific thing in Excel. I'm happy to field any of those questions that you might have. See in the comments, these are great.
Content, Taylor. I know some of that, the VLOOKUP, the Flash, and that was a lot of techniques that I didn't know, and I'm looking forward to incorporating the Flash and the name range. That's some great content. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm glad it's helpful. I mean, when I found out about the flash fill, I was like, oh man, this is going to save me so much time. This is so great. And yeah, again, one of the big parts about it is you don't have to know the formulas. Super helpful. It would have taken me so long to figure this out and I'd have to go look it up. But yeah, just wanted to pass that along. That was a really big moment for me and saved me a lot of time. And then yeah, name ranges as well. Big time saver there. So yeah, hopefully this was helpful. If you guys have other topics and stuff that that you want to cover in some subsequent Excel trainings, reach out, let me know, send them to northtexasarm@gmail.com, or you can reach out via our LinkedIn page as well. Let us know. Some of the other power user features, we touched on Power Query before, pivot tables, and then depending on if anybody is interested in doing some automation with Excel VBA, I'd be happy to work through a couple macros in there. And yeah, so yeah, just let us know. Really appreciate you guys being here today and joining the session. If you find any of this stuff helpful, by the way, we are going to post this video to our YouTube page. Share it with anybody that you think may benefit. Tell everybody about Flashfill that you can possibly tell that finds themselves struggling in a spreadsheet. It is a game changer for sure. All right, so back to the PowerPoint. We've already done some Q&A. Our next, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, our next meeting is September, right, Sherry?
That is correct. I know we usually take the summer off for a couple reasons. One, for those that have graduating students from high school or college, and then also the conference. So we usually take that break and we resume during fall. So definitely the first half of the year has been great. A lot of great content has been shared. So yes, September 15th, save the date.
Hey, Tim, I didn't know if we had the slide showing the date of the national conference.
Oh, sorry, not on this one. I think we had it from the April meeting. I'm so sorry I didn't include it on this one.
That's okay. If we can just, I'm going to go ahead and look the date up. I know it was August. I'm going to go ahead and look the date up real quick.
Okay.
So Tim or Taylor, you guys can keep talking while I look this up.
Okay. And then for those of you that enjoy these Excel sessions, giving you a long lead up, the next one is going to be in October. So in that one, if there's anything specific that you want to see, if you're struggling with something and you want to know how, I'll try to leave some time at the end of that one as well. Maybe 15 or 20 minutes if we move through material quickly. But yeah, just like a DJ, if you have a request, let me know. I'll try to work it out on the screen and try to recreate the issue that you're experiencing and see if we can work through it.
And I'm just putting it in the chat. The AHRMM National Conference is August 7th through the 10th in Anaheim, and you can register on the national website.
Excellent. Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate it. Sorry for not including that.
No.
All right. Then I think that brings us to the conclusion of the meeting. Any other final questions?
Please, if you guys get the survey link, tell us how we're doing. We definitely want to know what we're doing good, what we're doing bad. Where can we improve? So this is your opportunity to give us some feedback that we look at to try to continue providing better, great content, relevant content. So definitely let us know what you want, and we will try to serve you. That's all I have.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.